comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So it's only like 8 days. Well, what is it? It's the 10th today, and I leave to Spain on the 19th. So it's 8 days till I finish work for a fucking sweet 2-week break in Spain. But I'm now part of a Telegram group with all the other parents that are taking their kids to this Barcelona FC clinic. And this group could be worse than my son's actual soccer team group, which is also bad. It's just starting to kick off in there. There's like 90 people in there, 90 fucking families in there. That's what I'm going to have to deal with. I'm not looking forward to that at all. Hey, how are you? Yeah, good. Yourself? Yeah, I'm good. I'm just excited about this, whatever the fuck this is. Can I get away now? But it seems to be a particular type of person in here. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of fucking talk about after the training camp, we're going to France to do some skiing and shit like that. We're going to Paris for a little while. We thought we'd get a camper van and tour Europe. All that sort of stuff. Rich cunts. It did cost a little bit of money to attend this thing, which we didn't even pay for it. It was a gift from my wife's parents to their grandson. That's why we're going. Otherwise, we would be home. So it's going to be a particular type that I don't always get along with. Look, I don't usually get along with that many people. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I am not for like mass consumption. In my life, on this podcast, my comedy, nothing. Nothing's for mass consumption. It's just like a couple of people. I'll fucking chip them away from the main group and they will be my crew. It'll be me and like one other person. That will be enough. That will be the crew. The person that looks like they hate it as much as I do. I'll just be like, do you want to get the fuck out of here? Let's just go, we'll go around the corner or something. Fuck this shit. That's what I do at work as well. I just find the cunt that looks like they're fucking having the worst time. And I link up with them. I'm like, let's fucking hide or something. It's what I do with comedy as well. I find the comedian at the back of the room who is also being fucking ostracized and is also disgusted in the comedy they're watching. And I'm like, fuck, this sucks, doesn't it? Do you want to get the fuck out of here? Fuck this shit. Let's go. It's always about bailing. So all these people in this group, I don't know how people are so friendly to each other and like just want to do stuff. They've already started like a running group. They're like, oh, is anyone interested in going for runs in the morning? And some faggoty guy is like, yeah, I love running. I think there'll be a lot of runners in this group. We'll start a running. And so now they've got a running crew. They haven't even got to fucking Barcelona and now they've got a running club. And now they'll be a crew and they'll drink wines and shit like that. All I need, though, is I need one person to take care of my kid a couple of nights so I can go to the Barcelona Comedy Club and do a couple of sets. So strategically, I'm going to make a friend. Or my son can make some friends and I'll strategically make friends with one of their parents. Just one. And like a low-key parent, a parent that's like more interested in staying in. But one of the parents in this group asked the question that I wanted to ask. They were like, hey, are we obligated to stay at the training while the kids are doing the training? Because I'm going with another one of my daughters and it's going to be hard for us to stay there the whole time. And it took a while for the administrator to reply. And I was waiting with bated breath, fingers crossed, toes crossed. And they replied with, you're under no obligation to stay while the training's on. We are responsible for your child and the chaperone that's going with them from breakfast till after dinner. And I was like, fucking beautiful. I was Very fucking happy with that. I read it out to my wife and she was not happy. She was like, "Can you admit it's a holiday now?" I'm like, "All right, it's a fucking holiday now. It's a holiday." I was trying to pass it off as, I've got to fucking go there. There's going to be things to do. I got to interact with the parents, take a little heat off myself. But after I read that out, I was like, nah, this is going to be fucking sick. That's 8 hours a day to myself in Spain, just tapas, hanging out with my mate Sammy. Maybe I'll join jiu-jitsu over there. Fuck. Maybe I'll just stay there. I wonder what time the comedy is. If the comedy is fucking like 6:30, 7, I should be able to fucking do a gig and then fucking bounce back. Anyway, it's all happening. I don't even want to come back from Spain. I haven't even left. But I've still got to get through the next 8 days. So fucking strap in. It's Monday. You know what that means. It's Ask Boyle time. So if you have a question you would like answered for one of the greatest minds of the generation or any generation, comedian, philosopher, crane operator, waterproof extraordinaire, Le Boyle, then go to my website, boylecomedy.com. It's all there. Fucking send in your Ask Boyles, send in your fucked up Fridays, join the Patreon, do it all. Fucking see you there. Anyway, let's get to this week's Ask Boyle. So this week's Ask Boyle was sent in by my man fucking Mo Phillips. And here's the question. How do you deal with and walk through life with mountains of debt on your shoulders? I am similarly waiting for a payout on some investments. Some have gone belly up and will likely never rebound. Some, brackets Bitcoin, have been lucrative. I've lost some money on top of already having student loans that are no longer being forgiven thanks to Trump, despite my 10 years of military service. That's brutal. I have credit card debt that accumulated throughout my marriage and divorce, paying for a DUI in the USA that is still being prosecuted while I've easily spent $10K into it already with the fines and lawyer fees, and doing cash advances a few years ago to make previously mentioned successful and belly up investments. Sometimes I feel so distraught about the debt and feel even more doomed with the state of the economy now. How do you channel the ability to ignore it? Well, mo problems? You have come to the right place. I don't even feel like I have that much debt. I don't have any debt that I can't fucking handle, except my student loan. It was a problem last year. I had about 30, I think it was, something like that. And the monthly repayments were fucking brutal. And the credit cards that I had to pay back, they clicked over from 0% to 22% or whatever it was. And that was getting rough. But since then, I've done a balance transfer on all the credit cards and I paid back the 10K. That was quite a bit of a burden. That was $1,000 a month I was paying that back on top of the credit cards. It was around about $2,800 a month all up, which is a lot. So about $1,300 of that debt has been cleared. The rest of the debt is on 0%. It's probably around, I think, 16,000, something like that. But the thing is, if I sold some of my Bitcoin or related investments, I could wipe that debt out immediately. But the thing is, I don't want to sell any of it. That's why I got my fucking job. I don't want to sell any of my investments because it's fucking hard enough getting that money to invest in the first place. And the longer it takes you to pay back the debt, the better it is. It depends what interest rate you're on. So I have my remaining debt on 0%. I have that for 3 years. So it's best for me to pay that back over the 3 years. It's best to take 20 years to pay back a 0% fucking debt because you got to understand inflation. To get through debt, you've got to understand inflation. So the CPI, all the governments try and keep CPI, which is inflation, consumer price index inflation, to around 2%. It blew out to double figures. It blew out to like 10% over the last couple of years. And the year before was like 6, 7. They've brought it down to about 3% now. And anything above the 3 or 4% official CPI, official inflation, the government starts getting into a bit of fucking strife from the people. So they have to keep it down. Well, they have to say it's down. So most of the debt, let's take my student loan. That's my biggest debt. I think it's like $42,000 or something like that. I never pay it back because in Australia, there's a system where you only start paying it back after you start earning a certain amount. But let's take that fucking debt. It goes up at CPI, official government CPI. So the government's inflation rate at the moment is like 3%. But real inflation is about 8%. And it has been for almost 100 years. When the official rate went to 10%, fucking like a couple of years ago, that meant 20% real inflation, because the government can't tell you what the real inflation rate is because there will be fucking riots in the streets. But you can see real inflation rate in the asset prices. So housing prices, stock prices, gold prices, Bitcoin prices, all the excess money gets poured into the assets to protect the value of the dying currency. The dying money goes into hard assets like gold, Bitcoin, housing, all that sort of shit, the S&P index, because of inflation. So if you look at house prices over the last fucking 100 years, I think it's like 7 or 8% increase per year, something like that. If you look at the M2 money supply, which is the total new money created each year, it's about an average of 8%. So all that new money gets poured into the hard assets. That's where you see the real inflation rate. So there's a gap between what the government says inflation is and the real inflation rate. So if you just understand that the government's not going to fucking say the official inflation rate's 8%, but that's what it is. They're going to say it's 3%. So if your loan goes up 3% a year and the real inflation rate's 8% a year, there's a 5% gap there. So if you just take your time, if you take 25 years to pay off that loan, your debt is decreasing by 5% a year. It will go up nominally. It will go up in number every year. Whatever the CPI official government inflation rate is, it will go up by that much. Nominally, when people say nominally, they just mean fucking the number goes up. The nominal value. They make it sound fucking... they make it sound fancy, but that just means the number increases. So the amount of your debt goes up, but the actual value of the money you're paying back is decreasing every year. So let's say in 20 years, my fucking loan is like $80,000, but inflation has crushed the purchasing power of the dollar so much that a cup of coffee is like $100. So the value of the money is much less. Like it probably costs you $1 million to buy a car or something like that in 20 years. This is if we stay on the same system, which we won't be. We'll be on the Bitcoin system anyway, so you'll be fine. But you just need to understand inflation and debt. Unless your interest is exorbitant, if your interest is above, let's say, if it's like 8 and above, then it starts to get a little bit tricky because the numbers increase like rapidly. It's still exponential. But if you're paying interest at CPI, at inflation rate, or if you're paying at like 3, 4, 5, even 6%, I would start to get worried about 7%. I would take out a fucking $200,000 loan right now at 5, 6%. Yeah, I'd take it at 6% and I'd buy 2 Bitcoin. That's what I'd do with my money if I could access funds like that. But to get a Bitcoin loan at the moment, it's 12%, which is it's just a little bit too much. So depending on how much interest you're paying each year, if it's a fixed amount, like 4%, I wouldn't even worry about it. Just pay the absolute minimum, and any excess money you have, get it into an asset, a strong asset, a hard asset. You can use Bitcoin, you can use gold, you can use silver, you can use the S&P index, which is just a combination of the top 500 companies in the US, which basically tracks M2 money supply over time. So it's basically an inflation monitor. So basically all these hard assets are just following money supply. So that's what I would do. I would pay the absolute minimum, whatever the fucking minimum you can get away with is. Let natural inflation, real inflation, inflate away your debt, and let asset price increases fucking sort out your capital. Eventually, it's going to overtake each other. It's just a time game. You just got to be patient. In 15 years, your debt's going to be worthless, but the money that you've put into these hard assets will have grown exponentially as well. So, yeah, you just got to understand money a little bit. This is what they should teach people in school rather than... You were taught in school, save money, put it in the bank, earn the interest, but they teach you nothing about inflation. So as long as you know that, you're actually pretty fine. You said you had cash advance credit card debt. That's usually pretty high. That's like 22%. I would pay that off as fast as you can. Get that to a manageable level. Your student loans, if they're low, if the interest rate is low, I wouldn't even fucking worry about it. If you're paying in that zone that I said, just minimum payments. Minimum payments for the next fucking 20 years. Minimum payments for the next fucking 20 years. And you'll see. Any extra money, just put it in hard assets. You fucked yourself because I think you bought some fucking bullshit crypto or whatever. Crypto is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's Bitcoin. That's the only thing. Crypto's a hard asset. And I would also fucking recommend buying a couple of fucking gold coins here and there and some silver, because people are too scared of Bitcoin. If you're scared of Bitcoin, just buy gold and silver. Just buy silver coins. I think a silver coin is like fucking $50 or something. Get a fucking pile of them. Get a pile of gold coins if you're worried about Bitcoin. But you need to protect your money somehow. And we're in a debt-based system, so it's actually inverted. Having debt at low interest is actually a good thing. It's fucking insane. That's why everything's so fucked. Because we're in a debt-based system. Anyway, I fucking hope that helps. I could talk about that shit all day, but I've got things to do. So that'll do for tonight, and I'll see you the fuck later.